was 18, right after I graduated high school. My dad took me on a cross-country drive across America. I remember one night, about 9:30 p.m., my dad was driving on a highway with absolutely nothing around us. He needed a break from driving, so he pulled off the highway and ended up in a very small town. As we drove down what I can only assume was the main street, we noticed something. There was nobody around. We drove through the town and never saw anyone. Many people have had experiences visiting creepy small towns, and as you'll hear in these true stories, the towns are not always empty. Driving down Old River Road in California back in 2002, I needed gas. I ended up driving through this town called Isleton. I parked my car at the first building I saw, which I think was an old hotel that looked like it was 150 years old. I looked all around and couldn't see a gas station, but what I did see was a very overweight woman sitting on a porch at a nearby house. It also looked very, very old. I couldn't see her face, but I know she was looking at me the whole time. I looked up at the old hotel windows and saw that somebody was also watching me through one of them. Did you ever see that movie, The House of Wax? Remember the town in that movie? This was just like that. I looked over to another building and saw an old, rusted metal Coca-Cola sign that was swinging back and forth and making a very loud, screeching noise. I suddenly, without any warning, felt sick. I have no idea why, but I needed to throw up right then. I got out of my truck and fell to my knees on the gravel. As I threw up, I could see to the right of me someone was approaching me slowly. As soon as I stopped for a second, I heard the person run away. I looked up and just barely caught a glimpse of a man in farm clothes duck behind a building. What the hell is going on here? This grown man was sneaking up on me while I was vulnerable. Unfortunately, I became sick again, and this time, I distinctly heard a woman talking. And in between my heaving, I heard her say, just go, once more. Then, I saw the man again approaching faster. I forced myself to my feet and looked at the man as he closed in. He stopped. He was a very skinny man and looked like he was on meth. His eyes were open super wide, and his lips twitched like I had just caught him doing something. All I said was, I'm leaving, and got in my truck. I locked the doors, and after backing up, I looked all around the truck. The man was gone, and I never saw the woman. I hit the gas and was out of that town in seconds. It was the smallest, creepiest place I've ever seen, and I will never go back there. I don't know the name of the town, but it was somewhere in the last 30 miles or so of Interstate 16. If you've ever been on that road, you know that there's maybe 3 exits in the 165 miles that actually have any sort of civilization on them. So we were on a road trip, and one of the girls with us had to go to the bathroom really bad. So we stopped at the next exit, and at the end of the off-ramp was a sign that simply said, gas 1 mile. So we turned that way, and for the entire mile it was just trees, with the occasional single-wide trailer. Then we got to the gas station, which looked like something out of a horror movie. The pumps were old and rusty. There were only 2 of them. and the building was just a tiny gray building. We walked in there, and the floor sagged as you walked. We walked back to where the bathroom was, and it was a single-person bathroom, so the girl went first, and then her boyfriend. When he went, he came out and simply said, "We need to leave." When we got in the car, he told us the entire toilet fell through the floor on one side and got stuck at a 45-degree angle through the floor because the floor was so rotten. At that moment, he looked up, and in the window, there was a man staring into his eyes. We got out of there in a hurry, and we were pretty sure that if we stayed any longer, we would have encountered some very bad people. The group of friends I had in my 20s really liked to go to the casino a lot. They got me into gambling, and the 5 of us all went every weekend for months. To get to the casino, we took this desolate old dirt road. The drive was about an hour from our hometown. One night on the way back, we passed through this incredibly small town that we always drive through, and for some reason, we thought it would be cool to stop at the bar there and have some drinks. This town was so small, I'm talking 5 buildings maximum, and small old houses tucked behind trees in the back of the buildings. The open sign was lit, and we walked into the bar. There was an old man sitting at the end of the bar, drunk, and a bartender, and that was it. We ordered some beers and sat down at a small metal table in the corner of the room. After some time passed, we were drunk and didn't see any reason to leave. We kept drinking, and somehow, hours later, I found myself walking outside by myself. I started walking down a dark street with the small houses and was struggling to stay on my feet. I was so drunk that I didn't even realize that I was alone, and I was in this dark, creepy, unfamiliar town. I came across this guy standing on a lawn. He was right out of the movies, totally creepy, just standing there watching me as I passed. He stopped me and said something along the lines of, "Had too much?" I began talking with this guy, and all I can remember of our conversation is him describing to me that he wouldn't kill me because I had an A's hat on, and that sometimes he dreams of killing the town's little girls, but wouldn't because Jeff wouldn't think it's right, whoever Jeff is. Even drunk, I knew this guy was off of his meds. I walked away and explored this incredibly dark town before I accidentally stumbled across the bar again. I don't remember much more than that, but the town was called Locke, if I remember correctly, and it gives me the chills when I think of how easily I could have been killed or kidnapped. Nobody in that town seemed normal. My friend and I went to Archer City once, in Texas. It was a long time ago, but we both felt like we weren't welcome while we were there, and everyone gave us dirty looks. Everyone being only a few people. The town was so small, like one main street, and that's it. The sky was gray, and it felt so lonely and hopeless. We went inside a bookstore, only to see the books scattered around the store everywhere. Nobody was working at the counter, and the books were covered in dust. Outside the store, we saw a little boy sitting on a bench, but he never said a word to us, even when we said hello. He was wearing overalls, and he looked like a kid from the 50s. The whole town did, as a matter of fact. Everything looked so dated and old. As we walked, the sidewalk was cracked everywhere. We looked through the windows, but every store was empty. We left pretty quickly. Archer City felt like a town that had once been a nice place to be, but when we visited, it felt forgotten and very creepy. A few years ago, I got lost in rural Missouri. Super lost. Like back county roads lost. I got directions from a gas station where the worker is super pissed that I won't buy his overpriced map. So he gives me directions that includes going down this road to this other road to get to the highway to get to the interstate. So I go down this back road and end up in this town. It's like 2 p.m. and it is completely dead. Not a single person anywhere. Mostly older houses, a run-down downtown area, old post office, that kind of thing. And I'm suddenly filled with dread. Like Stephen King dread. There's trash blowing everywhere, and there's just nobody. I drive by the library, and it's pretty much abandoned. There are oversized books in the window, and they're completely swollen from water. I parked my car and got out at one point. I walked up to the glass and looked inside what looked like an old hotel. I tried opening the door, but it was locked. Through the glass I could see no one, not a single person. After that, I had to get the hell out of there. So I make it out of town and I keep heading on my way and make it safe to my destination. Later on, I googled the town, and it's insane. The town's history was full of gruesome murders. One woman murdering another pregnant woman to get the baby. A guy terrorizing the entire town, to the point where they all just kill him in the street. The town was Skidmore, Missouri. And it has creeped me out more than any other place on the 3 continents I've been on. It was no joke, terrifying.